SLS GmbH is not a workshop. The work shown, which we carry out on our own vehicles, are merely experience reports and may contain errors. They are therefore not to be understood as professional instructions. Unfortunately, we cannot accept orders.
Hi, I'm Niels from SLS, and today we're back at the Bosch Service Center. We've brought along an R129 from our fleet, a 300 model. It has this recurring issue where it starts fine when cold, but unfortunately stalls at the end of the warm-up phase and won't start again. That's why we're here today, to get it checked out.
Alright, we're starting now by recording the exhaust values. We'll do a cold start and then monitor how the exhaust behaves and the overall exhaust settings throughout the entire warm-up phase. Now let's talk about the cold start phase. You can see the elevated idle speed here. The exhaust is running very rich because a cold engine needs a lot of fuel. Now we'll let it warm up and see how the exhaust values change.
I think this is one of the best engines for this car.
Yep, an inline 6-cylinder. Fits perfectly.
Exactly. That's all you need.
So, if it starts fluctuating or drifting away from the duty cycle here, we already have an indicator. Now it's slowly beginning to activate the lambda control.
Where is it at now?
Just under 80 degrees.
So, just slightly above that, and then the problem actually starts.
And when it's completely warm, it doesn't happen, right?
If it's gone past this point, and you still have it running, then it would continue running normally. But usually it stalls within this window.
The warm-up phase is almost complete. I'm now going to give it a quick throttle boost as described. Let's see what happens. There are ignition misfires.
Genau das.
So, what we definitely heard were significant ignition misfires. The exhaust values didn't show anything. We'll need to take a look at the ignition system. Let's pull the spark plugs.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the distributor. What is the coil doing? I now have a bar chart here. Previously, we recorded the ignition voltage, and I could already see that the spark voltage was completely gone on all cylinders. This is likely something related to the ignition system. Spark plugs, possibly too much fuel being delivered, or maybe too much fuel is being injected, causing them to flood. Something along those lines.
What could be the cause of that? Too low ignition voltage? Or something else? Maybe it's an issue with the regulation, something going wrong there.
So possibly, maybe just the spark plugs.
Okay.
Let's take a look, remove a spark plug, and check the ignition system.
Because it sounded like when it was about to stall and you gave it gas, as if 2 cylinders were missing. And it was making that brub-blub-brub-blub sound.
Exactly.
And then, once the others had built up a bit of RPM again, the others started firing as well.
It could also be, for example, that something is off with the fuel pressure, or that the injectors are having an issue, causing them to blow out the spark, and, yeah, we needed to take a look at that.
Interesting.
Everything still looks pretty original. Not many people have been here.
No, definitely not.
So, there's a bit of green corrosion here. Just a little. Not too much, but some slight buildup. I've definitely seen worse. Oh, look here.
That was already trickling out.
There's moisture inside. There's water in here, along with real burn marks and corrosion. So moisture tends to get in here, and don't ask me how it gets in. Usually, this completely damages the ignition coil. I've had a customer with an R107 who replaced the entire ignition system and the coil. Terminal 4 was completely burnt out under the connector. The spark plugs look relatively new, and they're Bosch plugs. Do we want to leave the spark plugs in? I've already ordered some new ones.
Did you order them?
Yeah, because they're starting to become slightly gas permeable here.
No, just put new ones in and that's it.
What we can still look at with the spark plugs, they're relatively new and still in good condition. They're starting to become a bit gas permeable at the top. But what's important here, especially with the K or KE Jetronic, is to check the combustion pattern. They're still pretty uniform. For example, if we had a mixture imbalance from the mixture regulator, we'd see different combustion patterns, and we need to look into that. But as far as the fuel is concerned, everything looks fine. Now, here we need to be careful. Yeah, you see, at some point they get really stuck and you have no chance of getting them off, or at least very little. And then the inner hexagon is not gripping anymore. It's already rounded off here. We managed to get these out, but the rest will get out later with a bit of effort. You see, it's already damaged and it wasn't hit hard, right? Unfortunately, they often break off. Now it's coming. Yeah, time has definitely taken its toll on that one. Well, yeah, we've already done a bit of prep work here. Here's the leaky seal. I've already replaced it. And the dust cover with the O-ring is also replaced. Everything's been cleaned up. Now we have the tool for installing the seal. You have a sleeve here, which you slide onto the camshaft, for example. Of course, there are different sizes. This one is the precise fit. You slide it over the installation aid, the new one, of course. This is the old one. And then the whole part is slid onto the camshaft and hammered on with the tool. Next, we'll install the distributor rotor. And then the distributor cap. I've already swapped that out beforehand. It usually looks like this, and this plastic housing is a bit stubborn, so it has to be carefully pried off and then transferred to the new one. There we go. The new spark plugs will go in as well. Of course, none of them should fall down. Very important. And spark plugs also have a torque specification. You should stick to that and not over-tighten. The connector should also click into place audibly. Now I'm attaching the spark plug wires here in the correct firing order with Mercedes. It's made really easy because it's listed right here. If you still have the original ignition wires, the cylinder numbers are written here. That way, you can't mix up the wire lengths. This is now, for example, the third cylinder, and the distributor cap also shows where they need to be plugged in. Yeah, I'll let it run for a bit before I assemble everything completely. Otherwise, we'd have to take it apart again if the firing order doesn't match up. C. Sounds pretty good already. Yeah, these are the individual ignition voltage needles. Here's cylinder 1, and then you can see all the cylinders in firing order. Yeah, so far so good. Now, let's let it warm up again and check the ignition to see if that was the issue. Yeah, look at that. The issue is gone. This is really nothing you should adjust yourself. You set your exhaust here. We'll check the exhaust values again now. They're really great. We've got Lambda 1 here and no CO at all. So the catalytic converter is working wonderfully, and unburned fuel, HC, is at 12 ppm. Perfect. Before we take it for a test drive, I'll check the car again, and I've already found something. It looks like there's a leak at the feed pump at the back. We need to fix that first. It seems like it's just a copper washer. We should probably run it again and see where it's dripping from. It's getting moist again here, and the same thing up top. Too late. Okay, look. Do you want to quickly release it, then I'll stuff these in?
Well, I've got my finger in there right now, so just go ahead.
Good. We've got the first one. I just don't want the boss to complain later with fuel prices going through the roof and us wasting his fuel here. Yeah, everything is sealed up again now. Both fuel pumps and the fuel filter were replaced. Now, let's put a bit of wax on it and go for a test drive. The engine is running well. It seems the issue was with the ignition. It's responding to the gas properly. The engine is running smoothly. We can be satisfied with that. Yeah, the test drive is done, and the car is running like new.
Wonderful.
No more issues with ignition misfires.
Yeah, and it was actually just that. So, distributor.
And I'd say the camshaft seal was also leaking, so oil got in there too. Yeah, both moisture and oil caused the corrosion inside.
Was this a typical problem for this engine, or was it due to other causes? Does this happen often?
Yeah, it's actually something I've seen before. Unfortunately, it's a common problem with these vehicles, with this engine.
So it's a specific issue with this engine, or...
Yes, it happens more often. I haven't seen it this bad before, though. But I think because the vehicle is driven so little, it ends up like this.
But luckily, no other faults with the thermosensors or anything else, which we had kind of suspected at first. Since it always happened in that narrow time frame, it was always reproducible. Always happening at the same time. But yeah, great that it could be solved this way. Great job. Thanks so much and see you next time.
Gerne doch.